Welcome to Stories with Soul. I am your host, Jamie Ice, musician turned entrepreneur and co-founder of 6th Ave Homes and 6th Ave Storytelling. Over the past 10 years, I have launched multiple successful businesses and have become obsessed with all things entrepreneurship and marketing. I've been on a personal quest to unpack what it takes to make and grow a great brand. One thing that I've discovered is that stories are powerful and that storytelling has the power to set a brand apart. Join me as I dive into the stories of the heavy-hitting leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, and business owners in our community to hear their biggest wins, greatest losses, and their best business secrets. There's a story behind every great brand. Welcome to Stories with Soul. Stories with Soul is brought to you by my company, 6th Ave Storytelling. In 2020, we launched a marketing company on a mission to encourage entrepreneurship and make starting and growing a small business easier than ever before. Since then, we have helped hundreds of small businesses and entrepreneurs grow their brands by giving them the tools, resources, strategy, and support they need to craft and share their stories. If you are thinking about launching and growing your own brand, schedule a meetup with me today. I would love to talk to you. Head over to 6thAveStorytelling.com and let me show you how the storytelling approach can transform your marketing strategy. This episode of Stories with Soul is sponsored in part by Project 202, the leader in experience-driven software strategy, design, and development. Whether you're looking to build a new software solution, redesign your mobile app, or kick off a digital transformation initiative, Project 202's customized approach creates solutions that work for your customers. Customer experience drives engagement, and cultivating that experience requires a ton of attention and time. Project 202 is local and has 18 years of design leadership. This team is an expert in using customer-centric methods to build compelling, data-driven customer experiences. Wherever you're at in your business journey, the diverse team at Project 202 will guide you from idea to execution. Go to project202.com. That's PROJEKT202.com and click Contact to begin winning the hearts of your customers and exceeding your business goals today. Welcome to Stories with Soul. I am your host, Jamie Ice. I'm joined by my co-host,
Jimmy Williams.
And today we have, one of my favorite people in Fort Worth. He is a entrepreneur, the king of cool, Jonathan Morris.
A lot of pressure, man.
That's
a lot of pressure, Jamie.
Speaking truth.
That's what I'm here for. And we'll get into why I use those terms here in a little bit. But Jonathan is just, man, you were probably like the entrepreneur of Fort Worth. He's the founder and owner of the Fort Worth Barbershop. He founded the Lathery, which is a grooming supply retail space that was a really rad thing. He also started Hotel Dryce, which is changing the game of what it's like to stay in a hotel in Fort Worth. He also is the star of Self-Employed on the Magnolia and Discovery Plus network. Has his own TV show. No big deal. And it has been in Fort Worth for 10 years, just shaping the culture of the city. There's a lot of people that live here that are a part of Fort Worth, but there's very few that I think have shaped the culture and kind of the ecosystem of small business the way that you have.
Wow.
So we're stoked to have you.
Well, Jim, it's very flattering. Goodness, man. Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
But you, like, I really think you're an entrepreneur. Like you're kind of like, whether you like it or not, or this was intentional or not, you sort of became the one that like people kind of look up to and has shepherded other entrepreneurs.
Agreed.
And do it with a lot of like just style and swagger.
Well, man, entrepreneurship is something that for me is I just love being able to get ideas out, man. That's all that I'm really trying to do professionally is take things that I have been marinating on, things that ideas that I've been consumed by, ideas that I've been obsessed by, and bring them to the world. And particularly in Fort Worth right now, I kind of look at it like I like Fort Worth and I want to like stay in Fort Worth, and so I kind of want to just create the things that I wish existed in Fort Worth. And so if that can inspire other people as well, so be it. I think it's cool.
So I have two questions for that. One is, was there a moment where you're like, Fort Worth is it? Because you're also kind of like a Fort Worth ambassador. You got Fort Worth tattooed on your
I
forearm.
do,
You know,
yeah.
you talk
Pocket
about Fort
camera.
Worth
Yeah.
or bicep, I should say.
Yeah.
Was there a point where because you've been here for 10 years, you weren't born here. Was
Right.
there a point where you're like, this is my city? Was there like a moment?
Oh, I don't know that there was a moment. I think it's been really like a gradual thing. So I
Mhm.
moved to Fort Worth back in 2012. My wife and I got married. I moved to Fort Worth. And in that time, and I'm sure you guys have seen, not only seen, you guys have been a big part of that growth, man, but it's just kind of become a cooler place to be,
Mhm.
slowly. Fort Worth is still very much a city that is wanting for more things and places and ideas, I think. But um, I've just been able to see the city grow in a way that just kind of has become more and more magnetic for me. I mean, straight up, like I would probably say, 10 years ago, if the city was exactly, um, if the city had not changed today as much as it has, I think that probably would have been like a shinier place. Something would have
Mhm.
grabbed my attention. But um, in creating businesses, one of the things that I think has really drawn me to Fort Worth even more and just amplified my love for the city is the way that the community has responded to these ideas that my hypothesis is that I think that they will work.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And when you have a community of people that respond to that, um, it's for me at least, it's been um, you know the fuel in a lot of ways for me to say, you know what, I don't know that you get this everywhere, and Fort Worth just has a way of,
Like the support and
yeah,
the
man,
we're getting behind it.
yeah, man, like I just don't know that that happens everywhere. When you look at a Fort Worth, and we're the 12th, 13th largest city in the nation, depending on who you ask on what day.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at those, 10, 11 cities that are larger than, or 11 or 12 cities that are larger than Fort Worth, I just think that you'd be hard pressed to find the same level of connectivity and that community support um, in a way that it happens in Fort Worth. And that's something that I think is unique to the city. And that's something that, as a small business owner, particularly try to lean into that and
Mhm.
really take advantage of what that means and how it can um, help grow the city in a way that um, makes me want to stay here at least.
Yeah, there's a camaraderie to it because
Yeah.
I did like I always describe it as like there's no reason just from my own experience like college dropout
Same,
tat,
bro. Same.
ex musician should have a seat at the table, and just what we had no idea what we were doing and
No.
most of the things that we have done.
Yeah.
But there's this like welcoming, you can do it. Like this is great. Come be a part like with the mayor and the
Yeah.
city, like all this like very formal stuff that should seem exclusive.
Yeah.
There's a welcoming and even just among the other entrepreneurs and other business owners. There's a I still vividly remember like I don't this is years ago, but when we first started Sixth Avenue Homes or something like that or something happened, and you sent Jimmy and I this like video text, and you were like walking, and you were like, just want to let you know, like you guys inspire me, and I was like, I remember that I was like,
I remember
man,
that too.
that meant a lot, but I think that attitude is
Yeah,
what makes it so
well, I
cool.
think that there's a certain camaraderie, where, and particularly amongst, I think, the small business community. I think that
Mhm,
the small business community is um a staple of that which makes Fort Worth, I think, interesting right now.
mhm,
And an important city in the scope of, you know, not just nationally, but even globally, the way that we are thought of, um, you know, beyond ourselves and people that live here. I think that when people visit Fort Worth, they're coming in, they're like, man, like there's a really cool small business community, and I think that that creates this kind of this culture of people saying, you know what, like I can find my space there, and when feel like there are other people that are like doing it with you, alongside you, and or just like pursuing, this, similar dreams.
Mhm.
Um, there's something about just feeling like you're not alone. You're not on an
Not alone.
island.
This episode of Stories with Soul is brought to you by TCU Neely Institute for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. They're ranked as one of the top entrepreneurship programs in the country, and they live by the Neely promise to unleash human potential with leadership at the core and innovation in our spirit. The Institute has recently launched the Horned Frog Investment Network, which leverages the expertise and experience of entrepreneurs, business leaders, and investment professionals. They source, evaluate, and invest in the next generation of innovators. Crazy cool. And as an entrepreneur myself, I know the importance of finding great help. It can truly make or break your business. Luckily, as Fort Worth entrepreneurs, we have access to some of the top up-and-coming minds in the nation. If you're a business looking for talented students and interns, visit the Neely School of Business website to learn more about the Entrepreneurial Intern Scholars Program. They're actively looking for placements for their incredible students. They're doing amazing things, and it's exciting to see the next generation of entrepreneurs grow and flourish right here in our city. Are you a small business owner or an entrepreneur? Do you do marketing for a small business? If so, I have something that I want to give you, and it's totally for free. We've put together a free resource at 6appstorytelling.com/download, and it's the secrets, it's the tips, it's the tricks, it's the tools of the trade. It's literally everything we do at 6app Storytelling to help small businesses grow. Go download it today at 6appstorytelling.com/download. Because entrepreneurs we're kind of weird. Like, it's hard for me to relate to like just a weird breed of like always thinking of the next thing, and like hard to settle down, and always like in the future, and struggle. There's all these struggles. It's like we don't have the sometimes I'm like, God, I wish I just had a job where I could just show up and get a paycheck and wasn't responsible.
Go home and not think about it at all until the next day.
So there's this weirdness to what we do, not to like put it on a pedestal in any way, but just it's hard to relate to people. It's like when I was on the road with music, it was hard to come back home and relate to people who weren't also on the road. But I think there's this, you kind of bond over, man, it's freaking hard. We're struggling. We're doing this.
I think that one of the things I've just been thinking about, even just over the last couple of days, is like there's this I feel like a facade around entrepreneurship as this kind of dream world. And I am an entrepreneur because I love all of it, the good, the bad, the ups and downs, or at least I feel like it fits my lifestyle, or the lifestyle that I'm trying to live really, really well.
Maybe
but
because you're like not hireable in a normal
probably
capacity.
not, man. I'd probably suck as an employee right now, like particularly right now.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Nobody wants to hire. But no, man, like I think that like people see, the upside. They think that, oh man, like you own your own business. Guess what? Day one, you're making all the money. And like, I'm like, that's not exactly how it works. But we're a breed of folks that like are willing to kind of like roll the dice and see what happens.
Yeah.
And
bet the farm.
See what shakes out, literally, man. And it's it ain't for everybody, but I think that for me, and particularly right now in Fort Worth, Texas, I think it's a great space to inhabit.
I think one of the misconceptions is like, if you're an entrepreneur, you're like, most people think that entrepreneurship is like, oh, it's this choice that you're going to do this thing. You're going to create this business. You're going to be so successful, set your own schedule, let everybody else do the work, and you just sit back and relax. But the reality is like, if you're an entrepreneur, your grass is greener is like, man, I wish I could just take a job, sit there 9 to 5, come home and relax. But the reality is like, we don't choose entrepreneurship. That's just who we are. You don't like, because if you went and took that job, it'd be 6 months before you started another business. It'd be 6 months before you're like, what can I do? How can I do this better? You don't choose entrepreneurship. You either are one or you're not.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is like something that people just don't grasp, is like, sometimes being an entrepreneur is like, we don't really have a choice in this. It's like, this is just who we are.
The way that I think about it, or one of the things that I always think about, is like, you know what? At the end of the day, the last one standing.
That's right.
There's going to be people that come and go, and you're able to be a part of people's lives and careers. But it's like, you're gonna be the last one. Unless you like sell business, whatever, and then
Yeah.
pass it over, whatever.
Yeah.
But man, it's a life it's a life for me. It's a life for me right now. It's something that, for me, like I feel like for the last 6, 7 years of my life, I've been just in this continuous like building like phase and like creating something new and chasing an idea of something. And like now, like I'm in this place now that feels different, which is like, okay, all right, how do I just nurture the things that I have going on
Mm.
and not get consumed by the next
The
idea?
next thing.
Because man, I just know that like I'll jump into something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like every day, man, someone's like, man, what are you gonna do next? What are you working on? I'm like, dude, man, like right now, I'm trying to like just
I'm trying to use
Yeah.
self-control and not do anything next
yeah,
because yeah.
because I will.
Yeah.
Because whenever you do something next, now you're gonna everything else is gonna suffer. You know, it's like,
And doing next is always, always, always hard. Starting something, there's always struggle and tension, and you're staying up, till 2 in the morning. Like,
And the thing that I've learned is like starting something, creating things begets opportunity for
more
the
things.
next more things
So
and
how do
more
you,
things.
how do you
And
say
so
yes and no?
being able to say like yes, being able to say no, being able to say that's a great idea and somebody should do that,
Hmm.
but it can't be me right now.
Yeah. Yeah. That probably took a while to have the boundaries or control to
Yeah.
say that. Okay, so speaking of that, one of the questions I wanted to ask you, and you've like hinted at it already a bunch, is like I have all these ideas, and have these ideas. I want like, how do you know? Because I think the difference between, again, talking about entrepreneurs, and we're not putting them on a pedestal by any ways, but just this is kind of what we do and who we are. How do you know when an idea is worth doing it? Or what's that moment where like, I'm gonna take the leap. I'm gonna jump off the cliff. I'm gonna bet the farm. Because the difference between kind of an entrepreneur and someone else is like lots of people have ideas, but
Mhm.
you're like, you went for your ideas. You did it. You bet the farm. You took the jump.
I think that it is like an obsession. For me, it's an
Okay.
obsession. It's whenever it's like I'm looking around like, why is nobody else doing this?
Mm-hmm.
This this is like bugging me that I cannot be the only person thinking of doing this in this way. That's where when I opened up the barbershop in 2014, Fort Worth Barbershop in 2014, um, I just remember thinking to myself, 'cause at that time, I think that Fort Worth was maybe around like 800 some thousand people, like number 19 or 20 in population. And everybody's like,
Mm-hmm.
Fort Worth's growing, the city's growing so much. And it was. And, meanwhile, I was looking around the country and I was like, man, like this is like resurgence of like dope ass barbershops. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
man, like I don't see anything like that in Fort Worth where I live. And the city's apparently growing a
Mm-hmm.
lot. And I'm looking in on the West Coast, Portland had a huge kind of this resurgence of the barbering craft. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
coming back.
This
That's
gentleman,
gentleman's barbershop.
Yeah.
Like you saw it in LA, you saw it in the Midwest, in like Missouri, you started to see it. Um, in New York, in the UK. It was just like people are finding these barbershops and these barbers are like really like leaning into the craft in a way that just they used to,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like coming back. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, all right, like if there was something like this in Fort Worth, I would go there.
Mm-hmm.
Something just felt just better appointed for like what I was looking for a barbershop in a barbershop experience. And then the other part of that was just like I was working in digital marketing at the time. I was working for a small agency in Dallas. And so my day to day was like helping brands like discover kind of where they live
Mm-hmm.
in the digital space and how they optimize their websites and things like that. And I was looking forward. I was like, man, like, why are none of these barbershops doing any of this right now?
Mm-hmm.
So I said, you know what? I'm just gonna layer
When did you have the idea?
so it was like 2013, 14.
The
And
idea popped into your head. You
well,
can't
I
get
was
it
going.
out.
Well, this is what happened. So I was going to a barbershop in Dallas. I was working in Dallas. I was commuting from Fort Worth to Dallas every day.
We won't hold that against
And
you.
I, man, bro, I can't believe that I used to drive like an hour every morning to an office. But anyways, so I would go to work, and then there was this barbershop that was like in my office building downtown Dallas. And so like lunchtime, I would like just pop in there for a haircut. And this the the shop that I was going to, the barber that was cutting my hair, cool guy. Um, One day he was like, "Yo, I'm gonna be raising my prices pretty soon." I was like, "All right, cool." And I was like, "I guess I could afford to continue to get my hair cut here," but there's it just kind of triggered me to think, man, there's got to be a barbershop in Fort Worth where I live and where like kind of like my life was happening, outside of commuting to work every day. And so I just started looking online for barbershops, and I started asking my friends and family in Fort Worth, like, where do you go to the barbershop? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? And in 2013, 2014, like everybody that I asked that question was just like really apathetic about their barbershop experience. And so I was just like, man, that's just kind of strange in this city that's supposed to be growing so fast and there's so many people. It cannot be just me that's looking for just a cool place to get your haircut. And so that's when I say, well, number one, I'm not a barber,
Yeah,
but
and to clarify, you do not cut hair.
I've never cut hair in my entire life.
I
I've
think that's
never
probably a misconception. Like,
Yeah, man, I remember like especially like when I first opened up the shop, people would like hit me up, like send me like a DM, be like, "Hey, Jonathan, heard about your barbershop. I just wanted to see if I could get on your books and like come through and like
yeah,
I want to get a haircut from you." And I was like, "No, you don't."
yeah. So you no hair experience.
Man,
Hair experience probably not the right
no,
word.
I mean, I've been growing hair my entire life, but no, and I think that so much of kind of the way that I think about um just kind of the way that I'm geared business wise is like thinking about the experiences that register with me,
Mhm.
and the experiences that I want to have, and really thinking about it just from the standpoint of like as a consumer, what are the things that strike me? What are the experiences that make me um, feel any kind of way besides apathetic towards them, and so I feel like at the time, thinking about that, the barbershop concept, so many guys were just going to like these chain shops and not loving it. But it was just a errand. They're just like, all right, well, that's what it is. And unless you know of something different,
So it kind of became this like haunting obsession. Like there's a need for this.
it was strange. It was just strange to me
Yeah,
that
that it didn't
nobody else
exist.
was doing this.
Yeah.
At
But
the time.
when did it go from this is strange, this is a good idea, someone should be doing this, to I
Well,
am going to do this.
when I started writing checks to contractors and buying barbershop equipment to fill up this 1,500 square foot space that I leased.
So
And didn't
you just went and leased a space.
yeah,
Did you make a business plan or anything, or like
yeah. I created a business plan.
do you like
I created a business plan. I met up with a friend of mine here, my friend Jason, and Jason works in mergers and acquisitions.
Mhm.
And what I love about Jason is like we sat down and like we basically just backed into the numbers. We backed into like, all right, he's also thinking from the standpoint like, oh, like how do businesses become acquired, which I'm not looking to be acquired or anything like that. But he's thinking about it from the standpoint of like, how do you create a healthy
Yeah.
business plan?
Yeah.
And we're backing into the numbers. Like, how many people do we need to walk through that door
Yeah.
every day? How do you create, how many people do we need for a barber to how many customers need to walk and sit down in a barber's chair for the barber to be able to take home
Mhm.
a good living? And so we set up, I paid him in TX whiskey. He would come over to my
Uh-huh.
to my house. We set it on my kitchen table and we like backed into like how do you make this thing work? And so
And what did Catherine say?
she was like, man,
You
that's the
were
thing,
like,
man. My
I'm
wife, like, she's just like, she's also weird. She's an entrepreneur too.
yeah, I
She
know.
was just
Yeah.
kind of like, all right. people were like, and I think that like it was at first she was kind of like, well, all right, I don't, uh,
You've
I
never
don't,
cut hair, well then let's do
yeah,
it.
but I don't know, like she's just supportive in a way that is, and has been for other ideas too. That I don't know. I think that she's just kind of like, all right, I trust you. I think
So you're having
you'll figure it out.
these late night whiskey infused business
Yeah,
conversations.
yeah, and then sign a lease.
So you said this works, the numbers work.
Well, we had to get people in the door,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did
But
you quit your job?
so I stayed working full time for about 6 months after opening up the barbershop. And that time, like that was another thing. Like I was like, you know, still working, still commuting to Dallas. But like
So probably working 40,
man,
45 hours a
so
week.
like I'd wake up, go to the barbershop in the morning, get the towels prepped, get things going for the day, leave. I'd hired a shop manager, Jennifer. Jennifer's still with me today.
Mhm.
She holds it down. And from that time, and she had never managed a barbershop before. She'd never
Mhm.
even been in a barbershop before. But no, man, she's amazing. But day to day, be running the show. Started with one barber, and slow. And I'd go to work every day, man. I'd be looking at the cameras and like just obsessed with like what's happening. And then
Mm.
my day job and like this infant of a idea at the
Mhm.
time started to kind of compete
Mhm.
Yep.
for my mind share and just kind of like how I wanted to invest my time or where I could like really give myself
And you're probably
over
burning
to.
the candle at both ends.
And then I would come home after work, pop into the shop before they close.
Mhm.
How did everything go today? Do we have any issues? And so it was you know, making that leap, making that jump from, working for somebody to saying, you know what, I'm all in. That was huge commitment. And it took a while before,
And
got the
lease is expensive. That's probably
lease is expensive. So it was
did you borrow money or did you have savings or how?
savings, man.
So you
Savings.
just I'm gonna
And just said, you know what? I believe in it, man. And that
uh-huh.
was the thing. Like I'm bet on myself and my ability to build a team of
Mhm.
of,
Even though
of
you'd never done it before.
never done it before. But you know what though? Like I also kind of look at ideas and think to myself, like, "Well, somebody's done this before.
Yeah.
And like I am by no means the smartest man in the room, but like there's some dummies done this before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I can just apply the few things that I do know about business, about what I like, experience I want to have, and put that on top of trying my best, I feel like we could probably figure it out.
Mhm.
See, I feel like that's what I call the entrepreneur's ego.
Yeah.
And because every entrepreneur believes it, they look at something, they're like, I could do that. And you know what? I could do it better.
I could do that
I
better.
could do that better. And I'm like, I'm not the smartest guy. You're gonna make mistakes, but I'm like, I could do that.
Well, like I never wanted to think about, and particularly like within the barbershop landscape, I didn't want to think about it from the standpoint like, oh, I can do it better, but like I just feel like I could do it differently. And I think that there are people that will respond to my version of it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I mean, there's people that have been cutting hair in this town for decades and
Mhm.
building, businesses around it for decades. The way that I saw it was just like, there's, market dynamics that are changing. There's things that are, you know, at that time especially, man, like digital was becoming that much more important.
Yeah.
Building a brand around, your product, service, whatever it is,
Yeah.
was really important. Being discoverable online was really
Yeah.
important. So I just looked at it like, all right, like I'm just going to.
And you know how to do that. You've been doing that
Well, that's what I
with the
was
market. Yeah.
like. That was like what I was doing day to day.
Mhm.
For all sorts of brands at the time. And so small brands, big brands, but ultimately I was just like, you know what, we're just gonna layer that on top of this old school profession in this city that is always kind of like a step behind what's happening in the rest of the country.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so much of I think of the early success of Fort Worth Barbershop was great timing.
Yeah.
maybe more so than just a genius idea.
Yeah, you caught a wave.
We hit it at the right time, and um,
This episode is brought to you by my good friends at Visit Fort Worth. Visit Fort Worth is the official destination marketing organization of the 13th largest city, and I would say the greatest city in the United States, dedicated to promoting Fort Worth as a premier business and leisure destination with thriving centers of creativity, culture, and commerce. Visit Fort Worth is the parent organization of the Fort Worth Herd, the Fort Worth Film Commission, Fort Worth Sports Commission, Visita Fort Worth, and Music Initiative Here Fort Worth. They are doing a lot of amazing things. For more information on Visit Fort Worth, head over to visitfortworth.com and follow them on social at Visit Fort Worth. This episode is sponsored by the Fort Worth Business Press. As a Fort Worth entrepreneur and small business owner, the Business Press is my favorite source for news and updates about the entrepreneurial community in and around Fort Worth. I read their email newsletter literally every day. It's always full of insights and stories that really matter. Are you ready to be more connected? Sign up for their free newsletter at fortworthbusinesspress.com. But if you're like me and the newsletter just isn't enough, you can become an insider. With the code STORYTELLING10, all one word, you'll get a discount on the Insider membership. Insiders receive exclusive access to special content, 24 issues of the Business Press delivered to your door each year, and discounts on event registrations and more. Join me and the Fort Worth Business Press in staying up to date on the people, companies, and issues that matter most to Fort Worth.
for me, like I just remember like I would go to these other cities and just be like, man, like they have a culture of barbershop. Like there's like some dope barbershops to like choose from in these other places. And I was like, man, I want for that to be the case. And, one of the things that I love about what's happening now, 8 years removed, the city's got some cool barbershops now, man. It's we've got some guys, we have a couple guys that have come from my shop and
Oh yeah.
done their own thing, and created their own versions of, what a barbershop
You
can
kind of
be.
incubated some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that, man, like that's true about a lot of things, even just like in Fort Worth right now. Like I remember when, like, call it 8, 9 years ago, like there wasn't third wave coffee in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Like maybe 1 or 2 spots, but like now, but you can't throw a rock without hitting a coffee
Yeah, that's
shop.
right.
Yeah.
You're right.
But I think that what's happening, I think part of what's happened over time is that the city is like just growing and there's kind of space for a lot of people in these different kind of segments. And so it creates this it creates the ability for people to kind of bring their own identity to those spaces. So whether it be a barbershop, whether it be a coffee shop, and you can be yourself and find an audience for the way you do the thing that you do.
That's right.
And that's one of the things I love about kind of what's happening in Fort Worth and just seeing the growth, particularly in like the small business space.
I love that.
And you're also a purveyor. I don't know. Is that a word? Right word.
Purveyor?
Purveyor. That's what I'm looking for.
Well, of what?
A purveyor of vibe. Like I feel like part of your thing with everything that you have done is that there's like this brand and vibe and experience to it. Like you were saying earlier, like, creating experiences that register. And I would assume that's probably like part of one of the things that makes Jonathan Morris is he's got this sort of vibe and he's thinking about vibe. Some people are probably thinking about numbers and some people are thinking about solving problems. I think my assumption is if I opened your brain, a lot of what you're thinking about is like vibe and experience.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not.
It is true. I think that for me, I think about what moves me. I think about the way, and particularly the way that spaces make me feel. And for me, traveling is a huge inspiration. Understanding what is it about an environment that makes you feel drawn to it? What is it about an environment that sticks with you? What is it about an environment that makes you want to tell someone else about it? what is it that's sticky? So many things I feel like are so many businesses. I mean, at some point it's a commodity, right? It's anybody can do it, but like, what is it that makes it sticky in a way that um, you know people feel emotional about it, even if they don't know exactly why. And so, I think about that through, like sensory design. You
Mhm.
know, what is it that you hear? Like music is very important to me.
Mhm.
I know it is to you. And you know, choosing the right music. How does it feel when you like? What do you hear?
Mhm.
Um, Sense, like what do you smell? Texture, like what is it about spaces that stick with you? And so like trying to like and building businesses and creating spaces, those are the things that I'm like dialed in on
Mhm.
just because that's what moves me.
Yeah. You get excited about that.
That's what I get excited about. And
Mm.
so um those are the experiences that I'm trying to share.
Mhm. So the barbershop starts doing well.
Yeah.
You quit your job. You're
Hmm.
doing that full time. Then you're like, I need to do more. Like this is good. I'm good. Like, does it like awaken something in your soul where you're like,
Yeah.
this. I was supposed to do this.
Yeah.
Did you feel that?
Yeah, man. So what happened was, so like barbershop was rocking in Roland. We were doing really, really well. And I was thinking of like, okay, how do we grow? Because like one of like, if you would have talked to me and we opened in 2014, if you would have talked to me in 2014, 15, part of 16, I would have told you like, all right, got the barbershop. Hey, I'm gonna open up another one and then another one.
Yep.
I'm gonna be the barbershop king Fort Worth,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember, I think it was like 2016 ish. And I remember thinking to myself, because people were asking, like, what are you gonna do next? You should open up a location here. I've got this great, commercial spot
Yeah.
over
The
here.
real estate guys
Oh
start
my
calling you.
God. They're like, you know what you should do. Here's what you
Yeah.
gotta do. You gotta go here. And I was very much drawn to that idea of expanding location wise. And then something like changed with me where I realized that it was that was just like completely ego driven.
Mm.
It was like it was not even what I wanted. I
Okay.
didn't even like I didn't want 5 barbershops. I really enjoy like having the barbershop. I enjoy creating, I enjoy business, but like I realized like that's not even what I actually want.
Mhm.
But I think that I was very at that time especially susceptible and impressionable by like what people thought I should do
Mhm.
Yeah.
next. Um, and then one day I was in Portland and was up there. I was checking out some different barbershops. And at that time, like they just had a great like barbershop scene
Yeah.
in Portland. There was a lot of really cool spots happening. And I came across this small apothecary um, shop, and it was called Spruce Apothecary. It's no longer there anymore. Like in the it's right across from the Ace Hotel, and where it was, and it was like all these like grooming products and like soap products, and I just love I love like soap products. Like I love finding like a great soap or
Uh-huh.
shampoo or
I like that
like
about you.
I just love and I love great packaging, and I was
Uh-huh.
like, yo, I want a store like this. And,
Ding, ding, ding. This idea goes
this
in your
idea,
brain.
well, I was like, man, like, I want to do like a retail store. But then I was like, man, retail's hard. Like, I don't know if I want to do that. How can I like, how can I like add a kind of hedge my bet on retail and like add like a element of safety? So I was like, all right, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna open up this little retail store with grooming products, the types of things that you find like just like on your bathroom counter or in your shower. Just like great products with great
For
packaging.
men specifically.
Well,
Or did you have women?
I wanted to do bring in things that were geared towards men, but then
Yeah.
also like have
Yeah.
unisex offerings as well. because, you know, for men, like there's not a lot of spaces um that caters, specifically for men in terms of products. You'll go into, I mean, you got like your Ultas or your Sephora's or Bath and Body Works, and they're gonna have like a little sliver, and it's like this is for men. But I was like, man, there's got to be like a curation of things that are geared towards men, but also unisex products. And so I said, okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna open up a retail store. I'm gonna find a small space. I'm gonna open up a retail store. Retail's hard. Selling products is hard when people can, hop online and, you know, Amazon Prime something to the
Mhm.
doorstep the next day. I said, I'm going to kind of hedge the retail bet and add a service component on top of it. So what we did is I opened up the Lathery, and instead of just doing products, we added 2 barber chairs in
Mhm.
there because at the time I was like, if I know one thing, people need haircuts,
Yep.
Mhm.
and we're overflowing at Fort Worth Barbershop. So this is a way to, number one,
Diversify, so to speak.
diversify a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So get a couple more chairs popping, and introduce people who are coming through that door to come get their haircut to these products that I think are really cool. And
Yeah.
so that's where the idea for the Lathery came about. And so it allowed me to kind of um, test the waters of like what it means to be like in that retail space. Retail's tough.
So were you like going to market and like
Yeah, man.
buying
So I
stuff?
used to go to man. I would go to markets.
Uh-huh.
I would be like just like scouring things online. Like my bathroom at that time, especially, was just like full of like every
Uh-huh.
deodorant you could find,
You're
every
the best smelling
toothpaste,
man in Fort Worth.
every fragrance, bro. There was so many. But I would go to market and at meet these vendors, and it's fun. I used to go to this market in New York called New York Now, and it's like it's like for like if you have like a retail store, imagine of anything,
Yeah.
like there's a section for you, and so it'd
Mhm.
be like me and all these old white ladies from Connecticut that have little boutiques and stuff,
Yeah.
and I just go through and like find uh, cool products and then bring them back to Fort Worth and introduce new things to the market.
And how did it go?
It went well, man. So we opened up the Lathery in 2017. And for a year and a half, 2 years, um, it went well. Little small business, profitable,
Mhm.
cash flowed. It was cool. Um, 20 around that time, around like 2018, 2019, I started working on this hotel project. And so when that happened, my lease was about to come up at the Lathery.
Mhm.
I had 2 open barber chairs at Fort Worth Barbershop, and I was getting to this place of like, okay, am I ready to renew my lease for 5 years? Um, I don't think so. So at the end of December 31st, 2019, closed the Lathery.
It's honestly kind of like good timing without knowing it was good timing.
Bruh,
Yeah.
like I had, well, obviously I had no clue what was
Yeah.
coming 3 months later, but for a little our a little business like that, I mean, I wouldn't have had the cash to get through
No.
Yeah.
pandemic,
Yeah.
and obviously March 2020,
So did you feel
the
like
whole world changes.
you were killing one of your children when you did that? Like, did you have like a
It was
shame about that?
yeah, it was yeah, it was like a little ego hit. It was like the best thing to do at the time, and I knew that. Um, it it was the best thing for me to do at the time, but it also kind of felt like the death of an idea. Like,
Mhm.
man, and I always felt like, man, like I still kind of want to do that. Maybe I learned a lot. There's a lot of things I would do very differently if I were to uh breathe life into the Lathery again. But
Mhm.
yeah, it felt like I don't want to say a failure, but it felt like yeah, it was like a little ego hit, like, man, couldn't keep it swimming.
But you also had this
Could
other,
have kept it swimming, but it was just like
you had
there's
this other
other
It's not
thing.
worth
things.
it.
You had a
Yeah.
bigger dream, and part of it is like being a good businessman is like knowing when this does not make sense anymore. This is not,
Yeah.
because a yes to that is a no to something else with your time.
Well,
you-
definitely time wise. Like at the
Yeah.
time, it was just like, all right, at the time I was, working the front desk there and stuff. And I was, on the sales floor, like telling people about this natural deodorant that they
Yeah.
need to switch to.
Yeah.
And it was a time. It was a timing
Yeah.
thing, and my time um was beginning to be pulled, and so looking back, obviously, going into 2020,
Mhm.
eyes wide open.
Yeah.
It ended up,
But I can
being
relate.
healthy.
I can relate to like when I pulled out when we stopped touring with GRO, and then when I pulled out a Brood, I was like, man, I worked so hard on this and it didn't quite do what I wanted it to do, but I know, like this is what my focus is. I'm supposed to be focusing on 6 Ave. I know I feel good, but it's still freaking hard.
But man, like I think about it, you were saying like earlier, like college dropout. Like I also look at it like, man, like that's an education.
That's
Like
good.
Right.
Yeah.
it's an education, man. I look at, the good, the bad. Like I feel like I'm not good at a lot of things, like school. But one thing that I'm good at is like recognizing trends, like recognizing what's working about this, what's not working about this, and just kind of like seeing data
Yeah.
to inform decisions.
Mhm.
And there's a lot um, that I took from that experience that ultimately gets transferred into the next thing,
Mhm.
And so I want to say it's just an education. It's just learning, it's
Yeah.
adding to the tool belt.
Every mistake, even if it's not saying it's a mistake,
Mhm.
but just you learn from it. It makes you better. It makes you
can.
sharper. Makes you
You can. I think that a lot of times people don't.
yeah.
I'm like I don't got a lot in my tool belt, so I feel like I have
Yeah.
to learn from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was that
Did
experience.
you? So I want to get into to Dryce, but before that, do you have? So I think I've always I was in a band, and the thing about a band is you have there's other guys. You're not a solo artist. I've with all the business I've been a part of, I have this team. I think part of the reason Jimmy and I have worked so well together is like I'm not a good like team player, so to speak. I was terrible with like group projects. I like to work by myself, but I need to have like a partner to bounce things off of. And I
Yeah.
think we have, even today, I'm like sending him emails at like 5 a.m. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? Like being a solopreneur, kind of like, did you have a mentor, or was it Catherine or a friend? Like, as you're evaluating, should I do this? Should I not do this? Should I,
Yeah.
does a hotel have this hotel? Should I like, who are you someone that needs that, or do you have that, or?
I think about mentorship maybe differently than most. And I know that there are a lot of people that glean a lot from like, having a mentor, like someone's like go to.
Mhm.
I think about mentorship like if there is something that that I don't, and I have a relationship with you, like like I think of you as a mentor, not necessarily like dedicated time to like,
Yeah.
but like I feel like if I want to know something that I don't know about, if I want to know about
Stocks.
stocks, I got a guy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
I want to talk to somebody who loves that, is passionate about
That's
it,
right.
and be able to learn as much as I can from them. Not to become an expert on my own, but to learn from them. I want to learn about TikTok. Then a 17-year-old kid that's killing it on
Yeah.
TikTok is my mentor.
But
That's
who
right.
were
You know
you?
what I
Were you
mean?
processing these decisions of like, should I quit my job? Should I sign this lease? Should I close down the
Yeah,
Lathery? Is there someone you're processing, or you just this dialogue is happening with you in your journal?
there's a lot of very inward dialogue and like maybe torment in some way.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Um, my wife has definitely been a sounding board, but she's also just kind of like, go with it, baby. Like
Uh-huh.
you'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Which is, and not everybody has that, and that's something that I'm very very thankful for. But like again, like a lot of it is just like number one, like I love like research. I love
So
travel.
you're a research guy?
Man, like if I want to know something, man, I'm hopping on YouTube and I'm going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And I'm going deep,
Yeah.
like obsessively.
Are you pretty detailed? Are you detailed? Would you describe yourself as detailed?
No, I am I am detailed in terms of how I want for things to like
Okay. The
be,
vision of the
the
thing.
vision of the thing.
And
In
you
terms of like the execution of those things, I need people to
Yeah.
help sort out all my shit. Like
Yeah.
I can't like I can't I can't do anything without like a team of people because like I'm all over the place,
Yeah.
but like
you know what it's supposed to look like,
I
but
know what it's
how
gonna
to
look
get
like.
it there is you need help.
I need that yang. Like
But
I don't
you're
know
a
if I'm a yin or yang or but whatever the thing that's not me,
uh-huh.
I need somebody to
But
be
you're a
like
researcher, so you take
raw,
deep dives.
deep, like and like number one, like I'll go down like YouTube rabbit holes. But then also, man, like I think that for me, like travel just informs so much of um the things that like I want to present. Like I
Mhm.
always think about like I just think that like other cultures, other
Mhm.
spaces, geographically, um, help to inform um, the way that I think about like how to create something, and particularly in Fort Worth. Like, okay, how do I take something that I'm inspired by in another place? Like, how do I breathe life into that? That's with the sensibilities of a Fort Worth market and or people that are coming to Fort Worth. Kind of thing,
Mhm.
you know what I mean?
That's
So,
right.
um, yeah, I'm just obsessed. I think I'm also like really patient. Like I'm not like I don't mind like time passing if it means like I get to like
Yeah.
if if my job gets to be I get to get these ideas out. Like I'm cool with just being patient.
And
Yeah.
that's a part of your vibe. Like you are very chill. Like the king like
Uh,
you're not in a hurry. You
I try not to be.
Mhm.
I am obsessive, but like I'm pretty cool with things
Mhm.
taking time
Mm.
because if again, man, like if that's what I get to do for a living, I can
Mhm.
be okay with it.
Yeah. So where did the okay, so we go from a barbershop, a retail experience barbershop kind of thing to a hotel,
Mhm.
which is a whole way bigger
Mhm.
beast. It's a bigger beast. It's
Mhm.
totally different.
Yeah.
It's
It
it's uh
it's you know what? It's a very different thing, but I will tell you, man, like, um, one of the things that the barbershop taught me and that it's community. Like it's still a community space.
mhm,
Or it has a potential to be a community space, and it's a people business, and it's a close touch relational
mhm.
business, and so much of what I learned about creating a space for people in the barbershop, I think transfers, in the way that I see it at least, there's a correlation that transfers into a hotel space and what a hotel space can be.
Where'd the idea come from? Was there a moment? Or
Man,
was this like a
well,
closet dream you've had for a long time?
I always kind of thought about a boutique hotel,
Mhm.
a small hotel, independent hotel. And because I love hotels. I love a hotel lobby. Like hotel lobbies are my favorite
Mhm.
place to
And
be.
travel is a theme. You talked about travel. You like to travel.
I like to know the way people do things in different places.
Mm.
Um and a hotel in particular, it's like a communal hotel lobby space. It has this ability to create a sense of place and to tell you authentically where you are. A lot of hotel lobbies also do I think, the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
Like a Holiday Inn, it's the
Yeah,
same and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But man, I
The
just
good ones, the timeless ones.
the idea was, as a matter of fact. So I'll tell you the moment when I was like, ooh, I know what a hotel lobby can be.
Mhm.
I was in New York for a trade show. I was
Okay.
actually this was like 2016, and I was up there looking for products for the Lathery
Mhm.
um, at the New York Now show in February. So it's February, New York City. I was staying at an Airbnb uptown in Harlem, and my flight got canceled, and I had to stay. My Airbnb was up, and I had to stay an extra day. So I checked out of my Airbnb. There's a blizzard coming through New York City. I get in a cab, and I was like, "All right, like just take me into like the city, like into like further into Manhattan or like Midtown." And I was like, "All right, what hotels do I even know?" And so I'm like calling hotels, and I remember I was like, "Oh, the Ace Hotel." All right, take me to the Ace. So the cab dropped me off at the Ace uh at 29th and Broadway. And I walk into this space. This is like after midnight.
Mhm.
And I walk into the lobby, and there's like a DJ playing. The lighting is just like perfect. It's like a moodiness to it. Smells amazing. Everybody that works there like looks cool. The bell, every everything about this space is just
Mhm.
like feeding my soul. I'm like, oh, this is like I've come like home.
Mhm.
I love the fact that like it felt authentic to the city. Like I'm just like
It kinda, like,
Texas.
sums it all up.
It like sums it all. It sums up where I am. There's this mix of locals that are hanging out. There's obviously travelers from all over the world that are experiencing their little taste of New York. Um, and I wake up the next morning and go downstairs to that same lobby, and um, people are posted up with their laptops and they're working. Excuse me. And it's just this communal space. And I'm like, whoa, okay. I like the way that I feel
Mhm.
right now. And I think that experience just like I obsessed like over what that was and why that was.
Mhm.
And I started, I wasn't, I didn't start on the hotel I did that time, but like that always stuck with me.
Mhm.
Um, Fast forward, a couple years later, um, actually summer 2018, um, I I started kind of getting that hankering of like, all right, I want to do something else right now. I don't know exactly what, but that hotel and particularly like independent hotels kind of like starting to kind of
Mhm.
fester, you know. And I told a few people like I like the idea of
Mhm.
doing something like that. And um just started to like and again, then even just like traveling, going different places, I'm like, man, like I want to find I want to find the hotel that's going to tell me where I am, like where I really am,
Yeah.
and not just like this idea of where I mean, you could stay in Manhattan, like in Times Square, and have an idea of like what New York is, but like I just didn't see that the idea of what Fort Worth was existing here.
Yeah, we didn't have any boutique
No,
hotels.
nothing,
We've never had boutique
nothing.
hotels.
Mm.
Um, and I just thought that
We
that
have the
was
Worthington, which
Yeah.
is like
but here's the thing, like I just looked at it like call it the Worthington, call it the Omni. Those are great hotels.
yeah, it's not bad hotels, but
And
there's
they're really perfect for a particular type of traveler.
yeah.
That's exactly what they're looking
But the
for.
Ace, like a boutique, a craft, a
Nothing.
experience. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing. And I just got consumed by the idea that like this is weird. We're so supposed to be this
Mhm.
growing city. People are coming. I just felt like people were traveling to Fort Worth, and this is a city that you can very much miss. Somebody could come to Fort Worth, stay here for a week, and not be able to see it in the way that we
Yeah. What we
as
see it.
locals
Mhm.
see it.
Yeah.
And so I got obsessed with the idea of creating that.
Man, I love that.
Mm.
I feel like where you're going through this, like I wrote down this whenever you're first talking about the barbershop, but you have this idea and it starts to just kind of like I don't know, cook. So what's the word? You know, when it starts to bake,
Marinade.
marinate. There you go,
Uh-huh.
marinate. And then you have this. Then you start on your research, which for you is travel. You did
Mhm.
it both times, and then it feels like you have like help. Where there's like community support, you people that you're asking about, talking to. Jeff was the barbershop, and then so I feel like, and then you just do it,
Yeah.
and then I feel like that is what a lot of people I think come up with these ideas. They come with the research. They maybe get some help, but they just forget that like do it part.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're about to get into even the Dryce. It's like
And there's also a theme of him like kind of getting pissed that it doesn't exist in Fort Worth.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
like I got this idea now. I'm like, this isn't here, and I'm angry, and I need
Yeah.
to
It's
solve
like
this
it's like
problem.
Fort Worth, but it's an obsession that you used the word earlier. I mean, it has to happen.
The hero that Fort Worth needs.
Yeah.
Fort Worth needs it.
Well,
Like
it's almost like there's a community component of like, I want this for the people, but like
Yeah.
I also just want it for myself. like I want a barbershop to go to, and I
That's
want
right.
I want a cool hotel lobby to like hang out at,
Yeah.
or to have a meeting at, and like that to me is it's just kind of like why is nobody else doing this? And there might be great reasons why they're not, but for me, it's kind of like, okay, I'm willing to bet that there's enough people that can feed the little idea that I have, and can help me bring it to life. And then, just, with the hotel, I think that, coming off of just having so much support from the community in these other businesses, it was like, man, like this is a city that like I feel like if you be good to Fort Worth will be good to you, man. And
Until they shut you down on your permits.
but I mean, hell, like we went through. So myself, so I'll tell you kind of the story, like how. All right, so here's how like we'll get into. We got time.
Yeah.
We got
Bro,
all the time. All
we
right.
got all the
All
time.
right, all right.
Yeah.
So like okay, the hotel. One day I was at shipping and receiving bar, and Cutthroat Finches were playing like a release show. Hanging out, drinking a Lone Star or something, and I ran into a friend of mine, my friend Alan Maderos. And I was like, man, what are you working on, man? I was like, at the time, I was like, yo, man, we've got the barbershop going, got the Lathery at the time. Things are going well, but man, like I really want to do something else. Alan was like, man, what do you thinking? What do you want to do? Like, man, I've always wanted to do a little hotel.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I've always I always love, traveling to other places, and I see these cool hotels, and like, we don't have that. And so, or what I perceive to be a cool hotel.
Yeah.
And Ali goes, man, it's really funny. I literally just got back from this 10, 11 room hotel in Florida where he and his family had stayed for his sister's wedding. He's like, man, we really don't have anything like that. We had an incredible time. I was like, man, let's get together. Like, we should talk about this. We got together like that. We got together like that next week. Alan and I did at the Ginger Man, or the Ginger Man on Camp Bowie.
Yeah.
That's it, right? Yeah. Oh, like beer
Yeah.
hall
Beer, yeah.
place, which, funny enough, is actually gone, and they're actually building a boutique hotel there now.
Rest in peace.
But we sat down over beers and we were like, yo, man, like, it's weird, right? That this doesn't exist in Fort Worth. Yeah, man, let's talk about it. So we kind of like started kicking around like, all right, like what does it like take to like financially like do this? All right. And we didn't know. We didn't know what we didn't know.
He's like a smart numbers guy.
Alan's a smart numbers guy. He's been in real estate in Fort Worth for a while now. And just great dude, like great guy. And as a partner, it's been a great experience that we've had, the way that we are able to like just bounce off of one another.
Yeah.
But we started talking at the Ginger Band, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna start looking for like spots. And I like hopped on LoopNet and was like, all right, like what kind of inventory is out there? Maybe there's an old motel or something on the market, and found a couple things, and I was just like, nah, that's not right. Not the right
Mhm.
pocket of town, or it's not the right, bones. And
Mhm.
one day, I'm driving down. At the time, I lived in Arlington Heights, over near the Culture District. And I'm driving down the street, and I see this for sale sign in front of what has been the old dry ice warehouse.
Mhm.
And I'm looking at this building. It's this old cinder block building that sits on 3 lots, and it kind of sits on a hill. And I'm like, it's built in like 1969, 1970. Man, this kind of looks like one of those like old like hotels, like a motor court you would drive up to or something. There's this blue line that went across the front. I was like, just there's something warehousey about it. I was like, I like that building. It's for sale.
Mhm.
That could be a hotel. Also, I look across the street and there's this arena.
Yeah,
Dickies Arena
yeah.
is, in construction. I think at that time, I think they were like 70, 80% done with
And
construction.
people still didn't know what was coming with that.
People didn't know,
I feel
man.
like it wasn't until it opened they were like, "Holy
This is a
cow!"
big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
But I just remember thinking to myself, I'm like, all right, hold on. I've heard about this arena's coming up, 14,000 seats. People are going to be coming to sporting events, concerts here all the time. And when it comes to accommodations, hotels wise, it ain't nothing in this pocket of the
No.
culture district.
Mhm.
Nothing.
Like nothing.
Yeah, not
And
even not even a Holiday Inn.
The clo the it's nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, all right, you can literally walk from this old dusty warehouse at the time
Mhm.
to Dickies Arena. So I called the broker.
Yeah, I'm kind of pissed I didn't even think.
Yeah.
Like, why is no one doing that?
Yeah.
I thought the same thing. I was like, why does nobody snatch this up yet? So I
Yeah.
called the broker. Said, hey, man, I'd love to come. It was June or July of 2018. I said, I want to see the building. Toward the building, I'm looking through it. I'm like, yo, this could be a hotel. This could be a hotel.
You're getting the goosebumps. It's
Yeah, man, it felt very similar to like when I first walked into like what is now the Fort Worth Barbershop,
Mhm.
old garage.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I can just see the way this could feel, you know? And so Alan and I um met up, and I was like, dude, let's create an entity and let's buy this building.
Mhm.
So I went to my wife again and I said, hey, babe,
This is it.
I think we should do a hotel.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And put together all the money that I could. Um, Alan and I, we put together an entity and we bought the building,
Now you got to go get bank. You got to get loans and stuff for all
bro.
that. That's
So,
That. Yeah.
so we
commercial loans are such a pain.
we'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that. So we buy the building. So now we have this building. We closed like that fall. We closed like in October of 2018. And like we are not really even telling anybody. Like nobody knows what we're working on. But we have this building. But because of the proximity to residential, we had to have it rezoned for planned development. And the neighbors, listen, like some of them were really cool and very excited. Some of them were like, "Who are who are you guys?" And like, "You're gonna do what?"
Change.
Yo, like, what?
Yeah.
Like, tell me about the other hotels you built,
Yeah.
barbershop boy. You know what I mean? And I'm like, yo, like, we just think we could like pull this thing off. And so, um, you want to talk about like community. So we ended up having, take our case to the zoning board. And then we took our case to City Hall, and
People on Facebook and stuff were like vehemently against it. There was like some very vocal.
Some were, and that process alone, man, that was an education
Yeah.
for me.
Was
like
that the first time you kind of had some hate?
that was the first time I felt like straight up. People were like, "What the hell do you know about this?"
Yeah.
Like, you think you're gonna do what? Okay.
Yeah. And there's
And I was just like, oh, like, all right. people don't believe in me. All right, cool.
Yeah.
But honestly, man, like it was that, and there was a certain amount of like fuel behind that. But the thing that was so encouraging and inspiring was just the support of like the community. And I called up damn near everybody that I know, and it was like, yo, I'm gonna be speaking at City Hall on a Tuesday night. I need you to write in to your council person. Is that what they call it?
Yep.
Council person. Submit there's like a whole like form and stuff. If you want to speak on our behalf, come through. And went up there, man. We packed out City Hall.
It's like overflowing, right?
Bro, like no, legit, they have like an overflow room.
Yeah.
And like so many people like just came out to be like, yo, like, this is a guy, he ain't never done this before, but like we believe in him.
Yeah.
And people, spoke on our behalf. People spoke against us as well. But I felt, it's particularly in that moment, like, okay, like I have this dream, I have this idea, but I didn't feel like I was going at it alone. I felt like there were people that wanted to see this thing happen. And, so much of that was just like these relationships that I've been able to build, over the years in Fort Worth, doing business in Fort Worth and, trying to bring value and to our community. And so people showed up, man. And that was a huge tailwind.
Yeah.
Is that tailwind? That's
Yeah,
like, that like helps
tailwind.
you fly?
Yeah, tailwind.
That
yeah.
is right?
We talk about them a lot.
Yeah.
That's like one of my things I use all the
It
time.
was a tailwind, man. It
Yeah.
was a tailwind. And
So they said yes, you got it approved.
They said yes.
But during that time, was there ever this time where you're like, because we've been to zoning and like just city council meetings where literally 30 people show up because you're asked to put a storm door on a house, and they're like, we're against this,
Yeah.
So was there a time where you were like, dude, we're not gonna be able to do it? Like,
Yep. I mean, because straight up, like people were like, yo, if you're a city council person votes against it, all the rest of them are gonna vote against it.
Yeah.
They like delayed like our city hall talk and everything. And as a matter of fact, one day it was also February. I was coming back from New York. Me and my wife were in New York, and we got the call that the city council person, they want to delay it for the next month.
You're burning money every month,
bro.
The interest is
property
going.
taxes is coming, baby.
Yeah.
They don't care nothing about when that hotel gets there, right?
Yeah.
So we are, at that point, my wife and I, we're in New York. Right?
Yeah.
I was up there, and we were coming home to get back for a Tuesday night council meeting at City Hall.
Yeah.
And we get a phone call saying like, oh, well, they want to push it to the next month.
Yep.
And I'll never forget, we were in an Uber, and my wife like, you know what? We'll just, because so like the whole zoning thing was like, the way it was zoned, like it had been just like an industrial building where like trucks come in and out. It was zoned like it could have been anything. It could have been
the zone is like you just got to get the change of use.
The change of use, right?
Yeah.
It could have been a strip club. It could have been a dog kennel. It could have been a shooting range. It could have been a lot of things. It could have been a bar. It could have been a lot of things, right?
That would have had a negative impact
would have had a negative.
Yeah.
Which I felt like would have had a negative impact on the neighborhood. And so there was one point where I was just like, and my wife, we're in an Uber. I remember we were going back to Brooklyn from Manhattan from dinner. And I remember going across the bridge, and she was like, you know what? Let's just sell the building. Let's just sell it to some developer from California, and they can come and build a restaurant or a bar. And the neighborhood will see like, yo, this is what you've asked for, kind of a deal. So there was definitely a moment, and I was kind of like, well, yeah. I think, at the same time, like I felt like we made a good like real estate move. So it's like, I feel like we got it at a good price. There's a lot of movement coming to the cultural district at the time. So there was definitely a moment of like, you know what? Yeah, maybe it was just a real estate play and didn't work out, and we sell it to somebody, and They can do whatever they want to do with it.
But the city showed up. They approved it.
A month later,
you got that tailwind,
man.
And man,
yeah. And when did it officially open?
August of 2021.
2021. Was it supposed to open in 2020?
Yeah. So that it was supposed to originally open in 2020. We ended up.
So that took you. You bought it in 18?
Mm-hmm.
19, 20. That's a long time.
Yeah, man. Yeah. But during that time, that was an education. Like that time was, again, college dropout, bro. But guess what, man? I went to school.
Yeah.
I went to school. Not to mention, like, we had to go and get construction financing.
Oh yeah.
Knocking on doors. Hey.
We've never done a hotel. We lend us millions of dollars to build a hotel.
Yeah, give me millions of dollars, man. And I think that, that was another kind of showing of like finding like the right partner. We knocked on a lot of doors and people were like, all right, cool. I'll tell you one thing to know, like for entrepreneurs, we don't know, like bankers will sit down and talk to you.
Yeah.
Like you can get that meeting all day,
until they look at your tax return.
Yeah.
and they're like, I'm self-employed. And they're like,
but so we got those meetings.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, oh, well, great. Would love to, back you for this. Could you bring us some comps, for, hotels? And I'm like, like, there aren't any sub 30 key hotel rooms. And like, that's also the reason why
it's a good idea.
We're looking to do this. There isn't anything like it.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
It was, it was a challenge. And then we ended up getting introduced to a banker who some friends of mine, also small business owners, actually ran into them at Taco Heads. And they're like, yo, if you're looking for, a banker, I've got a guy. Hit him up, community bank here in town. And they were like, we'd love to talk about it. And I remember, sitting down in this bank boardroom and like, I had never gotten like financing, at this level before for any businesses before. I've always, just like, hey, here's my money. Here's what I got. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, that was an entire education, like learning what they're looking for and what they need to see before these, spreadsheet number guys are willing to be like, okay, cool. And so we, I remember sitting down in this boardroom with all these like banker guys in their banker guy clothes. And, like, I just had like my Dickies on, probably.
Dude, we have been there so many times, dude.
Yeah. But what happened was, so the arena had just opened up, okay? And these banker guys, they had just went to a concert at Dickies Arena. It was the first, so they did there was a soft opening Larry Miller concert at Dickies Arena. It was the first like show that they did. Mm-hmm. And these bank guys had just come from that show. And I think that this particular group that was right here in our community,
they got it.
They got it because they had just like, oh yeah, hold on.
Yep.
I mean, people can like
there was 14,000 people there.
Exactly,
yeah.
Right?
If you're hearing this and you're a banker, like, like we need it so bad.
Yeah.
I can't think how many times we've gotten turned down, but it's just, but the guys that have said yes, there's a guy, Jeff Montgomery, who's been with a few different banks.
I know Jeff.
The first banker
I met Jeff at the barbershop, man.
First guy to ever give us money, and everybody turned us down.
He
should not have given us.
He shouldn't have. Like no bank. All of his bosses were like, "This is the dumbest money." And he just like pled with them to finally give us money. We're like, we know this idea is going to work.
In you,
it's huge.
We know this idea is going to work. It's going to happen. Like, please. But bankers are like, how much money do you have? Oh, nothing. Okay, no. Or they'll be like, okay, how much? What's your pro forma? What is this? And we're like, I don't even know what a pro forma is, man. Like, I literally don't know.
It's a good deal.
Yeah, it's a good deal. I know we have 3 exit strategies. Come on, man. And then we get that one person, those guys, it's like,
man, sometimes it takes, that one person, that one relationship, that one door being opened up. But man, I'm also glad that we went through the process of having doors closed in our face also.
That's right.
It wasn't a
that shows a lot about your attitude in general. Like that's part of part of, again, your success is like you, I don't know if just hearing it, if you're listening, he constantly is reframing these negative experiences to growth experiences, you know?
Yeah, man, like, they have to be, like, I mean, for me, like, I have to be able to take something from it, and I feel like even, like, after every one of those banks that we talked to, and they were like, "Love you, kid, but, not this time around,"
Yep.
or
Mhm.
bring bring me 400,000 extra dollars and then we'll talk. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so,
Dude.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, no
those
problem.
those yeah. And so, like I'm doing all that I can, bro. Like this is like
So
everything you got on the
Yeah.
table.
so and in tandem, it's so
Gosh, man.
because didn't so when did the Chip and Joanna Gaines discover? Was that's happening as the hotel's not open yet,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, okay. Yeah. So that okay. When did we start that conversation? So
'Cause wasn't that before Hotel Dryce opened?
yeah. So
So you're working on this hotel, and then
working on
at
this
some point,
hotel.
someone is like, "You need a TV show," right?
So uh, we want to go into that story
Well,
now?
yeah, well, yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, we haven't even like talked about
Yeah, so
the biggest thing.
We're
so
getting, yeah.
so
is
here's
your
the
own TV show.
here's the thing, man. Like I've never aspired to be on television.
This
Like
was
there
not one
was
of your ideas.
no television was never my idea. It was never an idea. Here, okay.
Fort Worth needs a television show. I got this idea. That wasn't in the cards.
So, all right. One day, my friend Red Sanders, y'all know Red.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love Red.
Red, you want to talk about like just like a visionary? He's like that joker. He's Red texts me. He's like, "Hey, I just talked to." That's how he talks. He's like, "Hey, so I just we just had a meeting down in Waco. We've been talking to the Magnolia people. You know Chip and Joanna Gaines?" I was like, "Yeah, like fix up, yeah." Well, they're launching their own network, and we've been talking to them about like pitching like some ideas for like shows. I was like, "All right." He was like, "Would you ever be interested in like doing like a show or like having like pitching like helping like pitch an idea for a show?" And I was like, "I mean, I guess." What happened was, so Red in like coming up with these ideas for shows to for his production company, video production. They do video production.
Mhm.
To pitch to Magnolia. Um, One of the things he showed them was this video that I did for Visit Fort Worth. They did this series called Fort Worth Stories, where they kind of profile. There's like these 2-3 minute little pieces, and they profiled me as the entrepreneur. They had different creatives, artists, and business people around town, and I was the entrepreneur that they featured. Warren Cook makes
He's
something beautiful.
he's so good.
I literally just saw him this morning at the
His
coffee
videos are
shop.
so great.
So he made that spot. Red showed Magnolia this spot. And then they go, "Great. We like this guy." I guess I came across well on the camera to, these people down in Waco. And they were like, "All right, that's awesome. What if we shot a show around his barbershop?" And Red's like, "Yeah, like let's like that that's a cool idea. Let's do it. We'll love to do it." And they were like, "Great." And so they were like thinking that I was a barber at the time. And so
Okay.
like it was gonna be like Jonathan, cutting hair at his barbershop.
Yeah.
So
They're like, can you learn how to cut hair real quick?
I'm like, look, yo, like number one, I'm definitely not about the acting like I can cut hair.
Yeah.
'Cause that
And
is
I'm trying
not
to launch
truly-
a hotel at the same time.
Yeah. But you know, long story short, um, they gave us the green light. This all started to transpire right before and then during the pandemic. They gave us a green light production deal to shoot to shoot a pilot.
And the pilot was around the barbershop.
So originally the idea was around like Jonathan as an entrepreneur at his barbershop.
Mhm.
And then what happened was I think there was like a new exec that came in and was like, "All right, well, I don't know if we want to see Jonathan every single week at his barbershop." And then the idea kind of morphed into like, okay, well, like what if Jonathan like traveled to different barbershops? And then I remember I was in Chicago at the Ace Hotel, in Chicago.
Sponsored by Ace Hotel today.
Oh, Ace, such an inspiration.
They do
do
great
great stuff.
spots.
So I was at the Ace because um, I was doing R&D for this hotel project that was underway. I was sitting in the lobby. I'll tell you, I love hotel. I love hotel. I was sitting in the lobby on a call with production, and they said, "Okay, what if instead of Jonathan going around and going to different barbershops, what if he's just going to different businesses and talking to entrepreneurs?" And the way they kind of set it up was like, "Yo, like, um, what if you sit down with these businesses and through the lens of a fellow entrepreneur, kind of learn about these people's stories." And so that's when self-employed kind of came to fruition. And it was, you're going to get on a plane and go to different cities, spend some time talking to entrepreneurs and learning about kind of how they got their start, kind of their current challenges, and where they're looking to grow their businesses. In September of 2020, we shot the uh, the pilot for what you know now to be self-employed, and over the next couple months, we shot
And
the
they
rest of
said
the first
yes.
season.
So part of this, you shoot a pilot, and then they're like, "We want it or we hate it."
No, you shoot a
Right?
pilot, and then they go notes, 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 notes. Like this, don't like this, love this, don't like this. What if we did this? What if we did this? And several months later, they finally go, "Yeah, okay, do the rest." And so, getting to that point, I mean, that was several months in the making, and then all the while, like, I don't know, like, TV business. Like, TV business is it's a it's a totally different animal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the thing that I love about the show and the experience filming is that they just let me be myself. I told the production crew, I was like, "Look, guys, like, I'm not an actor. Like, I cannot memorize lines for shit." Matter of
Yeah.
fact, like the toughest, the most challenging scene we ever shot, I was in Detroit, and um I had to memorize, like, basically like a paragraph. It was like maybe 3 or 4 sentences.
Uh-huh.
And I'm doing it while I'm driving downtown Detroit, a city that I've never been to before,
Uh-huh.
in rush hour. And it took me probably an hour because, like, my short-term memory is like
No.
sucks,
Yeah.
and I can't remember anything. But I finally powered through. But when it comes to, like, yo, sit down with someone who's been working on their dream and building a dream and brought it to fruition, and just like have a open dialogue and conversation, and you guys film it, and then
And you probably
pick.
love that.
I loved it, man. Like, it just gave me the opportunity to be myself. And so
Mhm.
I didn't have to, I don't want to say it wasn't like hard work, but it wasn't, you definitely have to be like on and like, but I didn't have to step outside of myself.
Do you feel like you became even more of yourself in it? Kind of like you're getting to double down on the things that you love and are uniquely you.
Absolutely, man. I think that number one, like, I was just inspired by these people's stories. And
Mhm.
I feel like in a lot of ways, it pushed me to want to be a better entrepreneur. Just to seeing the emotion that came out of the people we got to talk to, which I didn't expect that this show would, like, we'd have like tears. Like,
Yeah.
there
Mhm.
were like multiple like moments where, like, grown men breaking down, crying, like, just, you know,
Mhm.
digging when they're, digging into the why of why they do what they do, and what's um, pushing them, and um, what got them to the places that they're at. And so it was an emotional experience a lot of days.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And there's it's one thing to film it, another thing it's to release it out into the world.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about like how it was received? Was that did that change things a little bit for you and your family? Like
Um,
Now I'm on TV and kind of a celebrity. Was that weird?
well, I don't identify with the idea of being a celebrity at all. But what was cool was that like there's people that I don't know that I've never met that their first introduction to me is,
Yeah.
you know,
And they feel like
all
they know
the
you
tele-
because they're watching you on TV.
yeah. And so that was a very new thing for me. I was actually yesterday. This is kind of funny. Yesterday, I walked into the wine shop to go pick up some wine, and there was this older couple. They're probably in their 60s. And they were kind of like staring at me. And I was like, you know, somebody staring at you, you're
Yeah.
like, what's happening? Like, what? Like,
Yeah.
what? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the wife, she pulls up her phone and she was like, she pulled up the Discovery Plus app,
Uh-huh.
like the picture of me, like on the front of the show, like
Uh-huh.
the
Yeah.
streaming version of
Yeah.
the show.
Uh-huh.
And she says, this is you. And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
nobody's ever done that to me,
Uh-huh.
but that is me, and I'm here right now.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So yeah, it's been cool to be able to share this thing that I love, which is entrepreneurship, my story and other people's story in this unique way, you know, endorsed by Chip and Joanna Gaines. There's this weird thing that happens whenever you connect with Chip and Joanna Gaines. All of a sudden, your social media just becomes like whatever you imagine, like the demographic of people who love Joanna Gaines.
Uh-huh.
Like now, those are the people that are like on like my Instagram followers.
Uh-huh.
But it's been a great experience, and you know, the Gaines is what they've created.
Oh, it's incredible.
It's different.
They talk
Like-
about transforming a city.
They have,
It's nuts.
bro. Like I'm so inspired by
More people. It's like 20,000 people a Saturday
bro.
visit.
It's nuts. I mean, you want to talk about transform like the economic development
Mhm.
of a city, what they've done in Waco. Have y'all been like down to the silo?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It is.
crazy.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's like Disney World down there. But super inspired by them. They've been super
They're great.
encouraging, like kind. People are always like, oh, are they really like that? And they're really nice people.
Yeah.
They're really kind
I
people.
met them once. We were playing not to name drop, but I'm gonna name drop because it's kind of cool.
Name drop it.
We were playing a party at like Willie Nelson's ranch.
Nice.
And
Luck Ranch.
yeah, but
Luck Ranch.
it was like before the Luck reunion, and they had this like dinner. And anyways, they were there, and but they were so nice.
Yeah.
It was like I talked to him about flipping houses for like an hour.
Yeah.
Just normal, nice dude.
Yeah.
Mm.
Glad. I mean, it's one of those things where it's just like, for me, I never thought that I'd be, you know, in that world, in the television world.
Do you
But
feel like you made it now? You're like, they're like, 2021 was a hell of a year.
yeah,
Hotel opens, people love it. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. TV show comes out. People love it. Like,
I feel. I don't.
you
know
feel
about
successful
needed. No, I.
in the sense of like, there's like good pride and there's bad pride, but like this is really cool. I'm doing what I love.
I feel like I am sometimes like living in like someone else's like dream
Mhm.
world. You know what I mean? I recognize that like one of the things I think about quite a bit, and I think over this last year, especially, you know, with the hotel, that been really thinking about like success or whatever, right? I thought about if if this is as good as it gets, if this is all I do, if if this is the peak, I feel happy. I feel
Mhm.
very
Grateful.
I feel very great. A strong sense of gratitude because I know that there are a lot of people, and even just like entrepreneurs that like don't live an entire lifetime
Mhm.
without being able to, you know, get their dreams out.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people, you know, live entire lives with things that, you know, are inside. And so I have a lot of I don't think about the gratitude in terms of like, man, like I've done all these things and they're just so successful. Like I
Yeah.
don't think about it like that,
No.
but I think about it from the standpoint of like I've had the ability in my 37 years now to take ideas that once just lived in my head and or lived in my heart and introduce those things to the world and to um, people that I get to know and people that I'll never meet.
Mm.
I feel a great sense of gratitude around that feeling.
Mm.
And that's something that over the last, I would say, year, especially since opening up the hotel and seeing people, literally come from all over and share this space um, with us. Um, there's a just a sense of like, wow,
Yeah.
I got to get this idea out.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's incredible. And we didn't even talk about cherry coffee. I mean,
Yeah,
and at the same time too, your wife is opening a coffee shop,
yeah,
which is,
yeah.
I mean, you'll have had a busy couple years,
Bro, I'm so
but it's
glad
all,
to not be in construction of anything right now.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Outside of just like, just trying to, nurture the things that we've created. She you know, had this opportunity to take over and rebrand what was Craft Work Coffee, where she worked for 3 or 4 years in as a head of operations. And she text messaged me one day. I was in Houston. What was I doing in Houston? Oh, I was in I was in Houston working with a friend of mine to develop our signature scent for what would be our signature scent for
Mhm.
Hotel Dryce, Copal Cleanse. And I was at a restaurant and my wife texted me and she says, "Yo, what do you think about the idea of us buying Craftwork Coffee, the Magnolia location?" And I go, number one, I know that she had thought about it because she had been pretty intimately involved in
Yeah.
business. They go for it. And I knew, and number one, like I told you earlier, like she's always just kind of been like, "Yo, like you can
Yeah.
figure it out." Like I've seen you figure out other things. Like you'll
Mhm.
you'll you'll figure it out. Not because like I know what I'm doing,
Yeah.
but I felt the same way in that moment for her to be able to kind of reimagine, what she wanted for that space. And so yeah, Cherry Coffee, she just celebrated 1 year.
Mhm.
And it's I'm really proud to see what she's done, particularly like just like creating um these opportunities for her staff. And um she does just a great job of nurturing her people
Mhm.
and really giving these young people um a great, I think, start, like a career start,
Mhm.
and putting them in position to feel seen. And um, they're doing a great job. I actually came from there this morning at my
Yeah.
espresso.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, man, it's super cool. I mean, y'all have made Fort Worth better and more interesting,
Man.
and it's
So have you.
and it's
So have
fun. Like
you.
to go to we went to Hotel Dryce a couple weeks ago for like
Mm.
cocktails, and
Yeah.
it's such a good vibe. It's a
Yeah.
really I was blown away because I had been a handful of times when you first opened. I hadn't been in a while, and there's kind of this thing with like restaurants and coffee shops, like it's all shiny and clean when it's open, and then
Mm-hmm.
stuff just gets lived in.
Yeah.
And I was blown away at how clean
Oh,
and like still the candles were burning in the right
yeah.
places, and the ice was melt. And I was like, it's a year later, and it still like looks meticulous.
Man, well, we've got a great team that does that feels pride in the work they do to keep the place looking good, feeling good. And again, like it's going back to those experiential elements. Those are
The
the
music and the
things.
smell and
Oh
the
man, it's got to be on, man.
Yeah.
well,
Gotta be on.
I wanna hit you just with some random rapid.
Yeah.
Uh, what if you could go back to your younger self? What
Mhm.
advice would you give? So any like if you could go,
I would say, younger Jonathan, it ain't gonna happen as fast as you thought it was.
mm-hmm,
Be patient. Your time is coming, but in the meanwhile, learn as much as you can, soak up as much as you can from what at the time might feel like really shitty situations, because you're going to be able to apply that down the road.
Mm.
That's good. Best decision that you have made.
Hmm. Best decision that I've made.
It's like one decision. This was one of the best decisions I've ever made. You may have already talked about it.
I think that probably picking up from Atlanta, where I went to school, and deciding to move back to the Metroplex. And at the
Mm.
time, it was like, you know, tried the college thing out, wasn't really popping like I thought it was gonna be. And that was a tough move. That was like one of those like ego, like
Yeah.
those things like kind of tucking my tail and coming back, home. But ultimately it gave me this space to define, who I would become with the backdrop of, particularly Fort Worth, the city that, my parents, grandparents all grew up in, and being able to kind of start my entrepreneurial career here, making that move. I was young when I said, you know what, I'm leaving Atlanta, I'm coming back to
Mhm.
Texas. So that if that would not have happened, I have no clue what life would look like.
Mm. That's good. I was gonna say,
I think
look at
sometimes like moving is the best thing a person can do,
yeah, I
whether it
agree.
be away from home or to like sometimes like the best thing you can do is
New
like
environment,
move,
new
change your
people. Yeah,
environment.
yeah. What's the favorite hotel you stayed at?
All right, so I have a current favorite room situation, and then I have a current favorite lobby situation.
Okay, yeah, I want to hear both. Yeah,
All right,
I like it.
I also am literally wearing El Rey Court hotel shirt. Like I love hotels.
I know it's awesome.
Um,
You're like a fanboy of
I'm
hotels.
a
Yeah.
hotel fan, but oh god, it's weird. Favorite guest room right now is the Ace Hotel in Brooklyn that just opened up like a year ago.
Okay.
It's in Borum Hill. It has just like a very like Japanese kind of vibe to the furniture, the pieces. I love the guest room at the Ace in Brooklyn. If you're in Brooklyn, like it's and the lobby's cool too. It's a dope lobby. But the guest room there, I love. My favorite hotel lobby right now, outside of we're saying not hotel outside of Hotel Dryce.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you
Of course,
can't.
of
You
course.
can't
You
say.
can't say
You
your own
can't.
Yeah.
hotel.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
like my
Okay.
favorite song
Okay.
is my song. You can't say that.
The proper hotel in Santa Monica in California. The lobby is goals. Like
Oh,
it
really?
is
Okay.
the sexiest space you've ever seen.
I'm googling it right now.
Kelly Worshler is the interior designer there, but they do the proper does really great design.
I stayed
And
at one in San Francisco, and it was
okay, yeah,
super
I think
cool.
San Francisco was one of their first, if not their first location, but Santa Monica lobby,
Yeah,
oh, proper hotel, oh my god, like
yeah.
chef, it is chef's kiss. It is chef's kiss. Everything about the seating, the lighting, everything,
Oh yeah, that's cool.
smell,
Yeah,
the staff, chef's kiss.
I like it.
Yeah.
Such cool vibes.
Yeah.
Do you have any like books or resources or like just that were really, really influential and helpful for you that you maybe you recommend them a lot or like this was
I remember, one of the like just like the books that like stuck with me. I think I read it 2 or 3 times. Was How to Win Friends and Influence People. Dale
okay,
Carnegie,
classic.
Yep.
1930
We just had
something.
another guest just say that same
What
thing.
I loved about that book was that number one, it was written like the 20s or 30s, and the principles are just very applicable.
Yep.
One of the things he said in that book is that always just stuck with me was the sweetest words to any man's ears is hearing the sound of his own name.
Mm.
And that's something that I carry with me to how do we think about things at the hotel. But even I remember opening up the barbershop. I remember telling our team, like, guess what? When people walk into this space, we're gonna refer to them by their name. And that was something because like I remember going to that barbershop I used to go to in Dallas
Mhm.
before. I remember I would go into that barbershop, probably going there for like a year and a half. And like I'm pretty sure that God didn't even know
Yeah,
my
your
name.
name, yeah.
You know, he remembered me from coming in,
Yeah.
but um these small I'm a big believer in small uh, small things that you can do that make a big difference, right?
Mhm.
Um low cost or no cost things that literally just take effort. Hey man, like when you walk into my barbershop, guess what? You feel seen, you feel recognized. And um uh, Dale Carnegie, like that book, like that always stuck with me. And so
Mhm.
being able to like implement those practices, um, I think they have the ability to make a big difference on the experience that people have and what they remember being different, especially um, things that things that can take businesses, outside of the commodity that they are and make them less transactional and feel like relational. Those are the things that I try to lean
Mm.
into.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Cool. That's great.
I got one more. Okay, so we went through kind of the story of different businesses or Hotel Dryce. Now we got the Magnolia Network show. Is there something like is there a time where you're like kind of reflecting on, man, you know, if I quit tomorrow,
Mhm.
what do I want to be remembered for? Like what
Mm,
is my stamp? Like Jonathan Morris, man, his stamp on is it Fort Worth, his stamp on life. Man, he
yeah.
did this. It doesn't have to be he did these things, but
I
he made an impact by doing
Legacy.
legacy of some sort.
I I want for that which I create to be facilitators for other people, right? I
Mm,
want for my dreams in the world to be a function that allows other people to build or get closer to their own dreams. And so to me, I know when I look at the barbershop, right? When I sit down and interview a new barber, I just met with a new barber we're about to hire last week. Young kid, man, he's 20 years old and just finished barber college, and he loves what he does. And to me, I think about a kid like that, and I say, you know what? This barbershop, this idea for a business is my dream, but like I want for this to be um, a space that allows you to amplify and see what can be done um, and take your dream to the next
mhm,
level. And I think that I just think that I think that's what you guys do as well. You know, creating, especially just employing people. I think there's a huge um, opportunity whenever you are like putting people in position to do the things that they want to do. Like I, I had to learn early on that like these businesses, these things that I am growing, it's not just about me. The impact that they can have on people's lives and their families' lives and their own legacies. Um, I want to be known for my things, helping other people do their things. You know?
I think that that is like the perfect answer. Literally, the common thread, and I wrote this down, is Jonathan Morris is building an empire for other people.
Mm,
That's
Mhm.
what I wrote down,
That's
and I was
good.
like, man, he's building. And you can see when people are building an empire for themselves, it's like it, but you are building an empire for other people to serve other people, and that's what I've seen in every single aspect, even the show.
yeah.
It's like every single aspect of your life, the way you treat people, the way you interact, the way you defend your employees on social media, the way you do. I mean, all these the little things, like you said, don't cost you anything. That's what I feel like you're doing, and so I feel like that answer is like I'm like, well, you're doing it because I wrote it down, man. So that's cool.
I appreciate it. Thank you for seeing me, Jimmy.
Yeah, man, that's right. That's right.
Well, man, this has been fun. Thanks for sharing all this with us. Thanks for what you do.
Absolutely.
It's inspiring, man. It's fun, and it's fun to hear you talk. You have this
agree.
baritone voice, and you're a great storyteller. And so, man, it's just been a treat. I think we've been talking for like over an hour and a half.
Oh wow.
And it feels like we need like a second
2.0.
episode.
I agree.
I had all these questions I didn't even get to.
Yeah.
Maybe next time. I'll be around.
That's right.
Thanks, man. We
Thank
appreciate
you guys
you.
for having me. I appreciate it.
Congratulations, you made it all the way to the end. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Stories with Soul. If you enjoyed the interview and like what you heard, please help us out and share, subscribe, and like anywhere you listen to podcasts. When you share and subscribe, it is insanely helpful and allows us to keep producing new episodes. You can always join us directly in the studio by watching the video version on our website, 6thAveStorytelling.com. Stories with Soul is brought to you by 6th Ave Storytelling, an organic marketing company building standout brands on the foundation of story. You're obsessed with your business, and we want to make the world obsessed with it too. Thanks for listening.